Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is such a privilege. It's my first time in Israel, and I've had many adventures with Gil, and I'm just really privileged to be here with you today to talk to you about digital business success. Now, when we talk about digital business success, I was actually really excited for that session about 1.0 this morning, about a digital bank. And just to actually go through some of those stories as to how you start becoming a digital business, it's actually really interesting, the type of scenarios we need to change culture, process, technology-wise to actually achieve elements like that. Now, when you actually start looking at digital, I think COVID as a period for all of us was a very good example of how we needed to achieve so many different situations without having, Gil, is it doing something? Sorry guys, there we go, apologies, I just saw the lights disappear. So we had to go through a whole situation where we had to adopt technology to help us through situations, right? And I mean, when you're looking at examples like banking, just as one example, most of us here in the room do most of our banking on our phones. But a few years ago, we'd sit in front of our computer and that would be the normal. So it's interesting how we start to adapt with the organizations, and the organizations you work with also start to adapt because of the end user and the customer. But the customer is every single one of us in this room for other organizations, not just the ones we're working for, right? And that to me is quite interesting. So what I decided to do is look into what are some of those benefits of adopting a digital model with the way that we actually run our businesses. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a complete digital company in the sense of like what we heard from 1.0 earlier, but are your services leveraging technology to benefit your customer? That's really what we need to think about, right? So if I look at some of these benefits, two of them stood out for me. The first one is meeting the customer's expectations that keep changing, which is all of us, right? I'm going to make a simple example. You're watching movies at home, you watch a series, you're happy with it, next week you decide to change. Why? It's convenience. But once upon a time, we all went to the cinemas and watched a movie, and we had to get in the car and choose. So what would you do? You'd review that series or that movie a lot more because you're spending money, you're taking time to go watch that one film. Now you can just switch it on at home at any time. So it becomes convenience. And the convenience changes the way, as users, we expect software to work for us individually. The next topic is introducing new revenue streams when it comes to a digital business. How do we find new ways to increase our revenue, yet still meeting the expectations of our customers? So if I bring this into a personalized example, I'm not being funny here, this is a South African company called Naked. It's an insurance company, and it's a digital insurance company. Now this is a practical example, happened to me recently. I had to get a new phone, and it took over an hour to get an actual quote from the leading insurance companies in South Africa. So I actually said, you know what, let me give it a chance. I've only heard of this company, let me try it out. It took me 5 minutes to get cover on my device, all up to me. Install the app on my phone, choose the cover, choose my excess, choose my premium, click, pay, done. That was interesting, right? Because what would have taken me between 1 to 3 hours to get the same thing done, I had full control in under 5 minutes. Now, naturally, if you're getting the same benefits, what would we choose? What would you choose as an end user? You would naturally go for the convenient option. So we have these companies popping up where in our situation, this is a one-of-a-kind example, but this is not going to stay like that for very long. And I'm going to use an example of Netflix and Disney Plus, at least in South Africa. I've been using Netflix for about 3 years. I loved it, the content was great. Disney Plus comes along this year, and I'll be honest, I prefer animations. So what happened? I started watching more Disney Plus, and now the Netflix subscription, I cancelled it. Now why? Because the user experience, yes, on Netflix was great, the user experience, but the content, what I wanted as an end user customer, was better here. So what does that mean about our businesses? We're going to get to a space where everything's going to be subscription model. What are we doing for our customers that makes them want to choose our business? And how are we observing their experience and their behavior in order to make those decisions? So we put through this customer cycle of 3 elements that I believe actually is the areas we should be watching and observing very, very closely. What do our customers need? How do we do that? We need to somehow understand their experience. How are they using our products? Are they in an area of convenience? Are they happy with what you're offering them? And once they're saturated here, are they looking for new wants? Do they want something else? We need to be aware of our customers on each of these stages. And the only way to do that is to start visualizing the user experience. And I saw this earlier when we were looking at UMT Bank. You just spoke now about business process monitoring. I love that example because you're actually monitoring not just your user journeys, but the actual process of what your users are doing. That allows you to have power in deciding what your next step is in satisfying your customers. Then the behavior. If you're offering content, as an example with Netflix, that no one's watching, why keep it there? Replace it with something that's going to keep your customer base. Banking or insurance. Why would I need to go through a process of an hour if I can do it in 5 minutes? We need to be able to observe that and understand what our users are actually doing, their experience, their behavior, for us to decide, are we wasting our time building features our customers don't want? Or can we improve what we already have and just get them to utilize the products a lot more? So that's the one thing I'm going to show you in a demo now. And then the last thing is business goals. So we saw business process monitoring now. And business goals is interesting because a business will drive that other topic I showed you as a benefit. How do we increase our revenue streams? But if we start taking business and changing our goals to be aligned to our customers' experiences, now we're in a position where we're delivering what our customers want. We'll be in a position to deliver what we believe they're going to need, and we can create the new ones for our customers so that we keep them to coming back to our organizations. So, if we're going to go through a little bit of a demo, Gilda, just put this down.
You can do it here.
Awesome. So, and then do I speak here?
Shy.
1, 2.
This one.
1, 2. Oh, that's awesome. So here we just went into our Dynatrace demo, and what an amazing day we've had so far. You saw how you installed the One Agent with Gil earlier, and you got automated monitoring. We saw how you could get to your logs, your virtual infrastructure, your applications, and the beauty is that everything is connected. This is in Dynatrace. So what I've done now is I've just gone onto my user experience dashboard, and we were talking about experience, behavior, and business goals. Let's start off with the first two, experience and behavior. So if I have a look here, I can see information about my users across the globe. If my services are offered across the globe, I can see my user activity in real time. I can see if my users are frustrated. What's the ease of use with regards to the services that we're providing? And what we can also see is their satisfaction. Are they satisfied with what they're doing at the moment with our services? Now that's interesting because satisfaction is purely just, is the page loading, are my resources loading, is everything running optimally? That is one topic on its own, but then you also have the scenario of behavior. So behavior, if I start going a little bit to the right here you can start seeing, who our users are, what type of transactions are they doing. So this is not a travel agency, some of you are aware of it, Easy Travel, but we've got a view here that's breaking down my users based on their membership. And that's an interesting one. So what's the behavior of my top tier customers, my new customers, my standard tier customers, however that applies to your organization, but be creative with your own business. But you're able to start trending, tracking, understanding the behavior and the experience of these different tiered customers based on, in this situation, a membership. Now we go a little bit further and we can also start seeing their journeys. So in this situation, we're looking at a conversion funnel of how a user logged in, then actually did a search, then did a purchase. And we're able to bring that all together. Now what I like is this is a quick dashboard just to show you that everything in Dynatrace is connected. And I'm just trying to get to the menu at the bottom. There we go. And I'm just going to briefly go into one of our web apps just to show you how we're tracing that entire journey of that user. So here we have all the elements about that user's experience, where they're coming from, what devices they choose to use. That helps us understand how we can optimize their own experience. We had a situation with a car vendor that created an app that allowed you to visualize the user's vehicle in landscape mode. And you could open the car, start the car, everything worked very well. But what they didn't think about was that when the user needs to get in the car in the morning, he would probably use the phone in portrait mode because he's in a rush, right? To start the car, get in the car, and the app kept crashing. The user doesn't know why. The car vendor doesn't know why. The user stops using the application. There's a situation of why it's important to understand all those elements around the user. So I'm going to just jump into one specific user session. Okay, so I'm going to grab this user here. And you get all the information about the users. You can get down into each session that the user has. You can visualize the actual user's experience with session replay. You have a whole video-like experience of what the user's doing. This is very useful to help us get a lens on the customer from the customer's perspective and not just from a technical point of view. And of course, we can get into every action that's loaded. When the user loaded the page, when he decided to look at his statuses or his journeys. And one thing that I like the most is the aspect that we can trace this across your entire environment. So I'm going to use this as an example here. We know where the distribution is across the browser all the way to the data center, all the resources on the user's browser, but being able to see the impact we have on our applications, our virtual infrastructure, the business metrics that impact that specific customer, that to me is powerful. And I'm just going to stop this demo right here. That was a single user session, one action through the data center, the web tier, the app services, all the way to the database and the underpinning architecture. This means we don't just tell you about your user's experience, but we also tell you about the impact your applications and your virtual infrastructure has on your customers. So now you've got a brief glance on user experience and a little bit about behavior. You can actually go into each adopted feature and understand the performance that feature has on all your users too. But what about your business goals? Just checking. This is the next part that becomes very interesting. So you have your user experience, your behavior, ties up to what Gil showed us earlier, all the way to logs and traces. But when we start looking at a business, you have these goals that are being driven by the business team. And I don't know about you, but I've been in many situations where I'll sit with the IT operational teams or the development teams or the release managers, and you ask, what are the goals of the business? 90% of the time, the goals do not line up to your business owners. So there's a lack of communication between business, ops, releases or release managers and development teams. One thing that we have seen is that operations and business has been working better and better in aligning their goals. But that doesn't help you when you're actually trying to drive features from development all the way to production, where we all actually, driving in the same direction. It's like doing a race, but you're driving the wrong way. So, IT and business silos limit our collaboration. And the only way we can solve that is by having shared goals. And to have shared goals, you need shared metrics. Certain metrics that allow you to drive those goals. So if we look at an example of a service level objective, how do we meet that business goal? We can unpack that into multiple service level objectives. Quick example, this is an actual mobile app that was released by a bank. And we started by understanding, well, what is their goal? Just give us a goal. So we sat with the business owner and said, what is your goal for this mobile application? Well, he turned around to us and said, we need app adoption of all of our users to increase to 65%. We said, okay, that's good, we write it down. Second one was the question of, well, why are your users not having that high adoption rate? Is it because it's new? Is there another problem for some reason? And he said to us, well, we've actually got a high crash rate and our users are rating our app as a 2 out of 5 star on the app stores. So we said that's not a good thing. But now look how interesting this is. Those two components about app rating and app adoption are business goals. The mobile crashes has got nothing to do with business. The DevOps teams, the IT teams, they care about those metrics because that's what we have to provide to the business. And then you obviously have all these other metrics that support the ability for our users to log in effectively. So what do? We capture these indicators, these metrics. We build out these objectives. As we see here, we've got an example of a service level objective. We visualize that. That's it. Just visualize it and come into agreement with operations, with DevOps teams. And once we can visualize and actually come into agreement, we know that we're working towards the right goals. But it's still a manual process. But this is definitely the place to start. So I'm going to skip that quickly. Here's an example of one of our own customers. And this is an insurance company, just for reference sake. Here we can actually see we started with the customer by understanding their technology, measuring and becoming aware of their technology, understanding what the user experience is, then sitting with business and understanding what are their goals, what are your business processes, what are your customer journeys, visualizing that, coming to an agreement. And when something goes wrong, we can easily tell you, is it the experience from your customer? Is it what we own as the technology? Or has it got something to do with what the process is, the journey, or us not actually allowing our customers to go the direction that they're supposed to do, with increasing their needs and allowing them to drive what they want? Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed that. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about SLO shortly. Thank you very much.